Greetings, everyone. Thank you for participating in today's Trident Academy session entitled USB in AV Collaborative Meeting Spaces. It will be presented by Ritu Spori, Senior Sales Engineer Network AV at Atlona. With you, Mainem, Channel Sales Executive, and I'll be moderating the webinar for today. The webinar will be starting shortly. Please, if you have any questions, submit them through the Q&A functionality in the control panel. Ritu will be answering all your questions live at the end of this session. Now, without any further delay, I'll leave the stage to Ritu.
Thank you very much, and welcome everybody to this nice afternoon, where we will hear something about USB in AV. So I will start right away with a couple of introduction facts and figures around Atlona and the relation between Atlona and the Panduit Corporation. So Atlona has been founded in the heart of the Silicon Valley in San Jose, to be precise, in 2003. We started first being an OEM company, but then already in 2007, we transitioned to an R&D based company, meaning we will have our own R&D engineers to develop our own hardware and software products. In 2013, we had a major breakthrough with our HDVS AV Switcher series. They introduced the Zero UI meeting room. So Zero UI stands for no user interface, basically because the unit will be able to power on and off a display or a projector simply by connecting a source. Let's say you take a laptop or any kind of source that you want to show, you connect it to the switcher wakes up, and the switcher also selects the active input, and the switcher, so the HDVS switcher, will send the power on command to the projector and the display. And of course, if you remove your source after a predefined time, everything will shut down. And this feature we still have today in almost all of our products. 2016 was then the first AV meeting room device adding USB. Not just audio and video switching and routing, but also we started to send USB data signals around the meeting room, mainly to collect peripherals like cameras and speakerphones, which we still do today, and which of course is a bigger part of the meeting we'll have today. So then, next one, 2016, was the OmniStream product series, which is our AVRP system, which we are still successfully selling today. Also in the same year, we introduced our first wireless product, the SW510W, which is called a Byod device. So you bring your mobile device, your tablet, your laptop, you go into the meeting room, but you're not connecting any cable. You simply present whatever you have to present in a wireless kind of fashion. And then a year later, 2017, we started with our Velocity system, which is a control system completely software based. So everything is on the network and everything can be controlled from the network. Then 2019, a big year for Atlona. We had Panduit that acquired Atlona. So Panduit is a much bigger company that was busy for a very long time in the building infrastructure segment. So everything that had to do with cable guides, racks, all kind of passive products serving the building infrastructure. And Panduit identified a need to complement the portfolio with some active components that go into the meeting rooms. So AV components, control components, AV over IP, all those systems that Atlona had was interesting for Panduit. So since 2 years, Atlona is a Panduit company. But then innovation didn't stop. So in 2019, we brought to market the Omega family, which we will talk about today also. So today we will have a technical part explaining USB, the different types of USBs and the different characteristics, but then a second part will also be I will be showing you how those technology goes into products. So you get a better understanding of the Atlona portfolio. And of course, Omega is a very important part of that portfolio. And then recently, we released some features around QR codes. So of course we have a control system, Velocity. That control system also has touch panels. But sometimes people want to stay away from touch panels. That might be contaminated, or a company just want not to invest the amount of money for touch panels, but just use a QR code, and everybody can take the smartphone, scan the QR code, and actually on the mobile device has the capability to control a meeting room or an auditorium. So Panduit, probably most of you are familiar with the company, has more than 4,500 employees and a very impressive record of patents. So Panduit is very innovative in all terms of technological fields around the building infrastructure. So copper cables, fiber cables, special terminators, special solution for special requirements. All this can be found within Panduit. On the photos you see on the bottom left is the Atlona engineering or R&D center in San Jose. In the middle is the Panduit Experience Center in Chicago, which is also the one on the right side, a picture from outside. So vision and mission statement from Atlona, of course then Atlona combined with Panduit. We want to become one of the top 3 AV solutions provider. And that's quite a bold statement. And how do we want to go there or reach that? By offering comprehensive solutions, intuitive products, high quality, and valued. What are our markets? So everybody that is doing AV will probably recognize those markets. So we're in the corporate enterprise, we're in the higher education, in government and hospitality. There is a couple of specialized markets, like for instance, medical, to give you one example, or cruise ships, where we do not particularly focus on, but still every now and then our products are used also in those environments. And how does the Atlona portfolio map to those markets? So we will have the circuit-based AV. This is everything running on a proprietary cable, let's say an HDMI cable. So sometimes you have those installations at home, you have an HDMI matrix going all those sources to that matrix, and from there you go to your projector or your TV. This is what we refer to as circuit-based AV. Then we will have the networked AV. So this is not running on our infrastructure, but this is running on the customer's infrastructure, mainly Ethernet networks. So that can be all kinds of networks. That can be wired, wireless, 1 gigabit, 10 gigabit, even more. It can be copper, it can be fiber. But we do have the technology and the endpoints to provide a networked AV system, for instance, throughout a campus or on a university or on a corporate. And then we also have the control and management part. So not just we have the user interface where a customer can power on a projector or control the light or close the shades, but also we have fleet management. So we have asset management. We maintain products over the network via automated software. Then these are a couple of examples. These, of course, are the most important areas where our products are installed. So from conference rooms, all sizes, from very small to very large. Wireless classroom is a big trend in education and higher education, because teachers want to be dynamic. They don't want to stick at a table. They want to move around the classroom. Sometimes there is even what we call a flipped classroom. So the teacher gives something to do to the students. They work on a project and then they flip basically the classroom, and then those group of students, they present their work. So that means from all different locations, content must go in all kinds of different ways. Digital signage, of course, can be combined with AVRP or not. Video conference, it's not just since COVID, but now even more. People are meeting remotely, like we are doing right now. Eventually, 2 years ago, I would be in a plane and fly to your location and do the presentation from there. But now I'm sitting in my office in Central Europe and talking to you over video. And then lecture halls, huddle spaces. Huddle space is interesting because you have a lot of them. Every company has them. Not every company has fancy boardrooms and auditoriums, but every company has huddle rooms. So in every country or every region, you have literally thousands and tens of thousands of huddle rooms and huddle spaces. And it would be interesting to have a product that goes in there. Sports bars, and of course now home office, more important than ever, small cameras, but still good quality cameras, audio systems, and USB switching systems. Good, so far for the introduction. If you have any kind of questions, you can always send them to the chat and we will look into them. Some of them can be answered right during the presentation, and certainly in the end, there will be enough time to discuss all kinds of questions. So let's dive into the topic of today, which is USB in AV. And I picked there a USB-C. You could say, well, USB-C, it's the one that came after the USB-A and the USB-B. This is now the C, but it's not just evolution. I would really call this a revolution. I will explain USB-C and why is it so much better than everything else we had before. And of course, hopefully you'll find it interesting to learn with me as well. In short, USB is the Universal Serial Bus, and the USB-C is a new connector. This is correct because it came after the A and after the B. Now there is the C. And interesting enough, you can find it everywhere. You can find it in laptops, phones, and tablets, but only now you also find it in meeting rooms where you can connect to. We still have the HDMI connector, and I will show and explain the differences. And I believe HDMI will still be around for a while, which is also a good and solid and rugged connector, but USB-C had so much advantages. So this is some figures out of a study. So the study is been looking at the number of devices that are on the market using a USB-C connector. We have small ones like phones, tablets, more into the wireless segment. But then we have them in computers, so stationary computers, but also laptops. And interesting, some of the docking stations, they are using USB-C because with one cable, basically, you can connect everything that your laptop can do. And then more and more, we will find the USB-C in the consumer electronics segment. So TVs, AV receivers, projectors, automotive, yes, also there to connect your phone, also to connect all kinds of different devices within the car. And this brings us to our first polling question. So I invite you to answer the poll, because it's interesting to see there is regional differences. Of course, and then also within all the regions, there is early adopters or just a regular person. And early adopters, they're using USB-C for many years. But now I'm pretty convinced that almost everybody of us is using a USB-C connector in some point. Yeah, okay. 3/4, interesting. So 74% answered with yes, the laptop has a USB-C port, and maybe for the rest, most likely their next model will have a USB-C connector. Good. So a quick history, because I was referring to USB type A and B already before. So now let's take a look at that. This is a photo from a laptop. You will have a USB type A port right here. This is what everybody recognizes is a rectangular, but it's not symmetrical. So there is an upside and a downside. You cannot insert it in any possible direction, which with the USB-C, you can do that. And then there is a couple of indication. Here is the double S, which is for super speed. So this refers to the bit rate, the amount of data you can send. And here, this is a symbol indicating that this USB port provides power. So this is where you can charge your phone, but also when the laptop is powered off. So it's basically just a huge power bank. Not every computer has that. In some computers, you can enable and disable this from the settings. And then here on the left side, again, this is the USB type A, which we also saw on the PC. This is typically where you connect your host. So a computer is a host to peripherals. And then the peripherals, they have this USB type B. So you find this one on scanners, printers, USB cameras, if they're still using the older type B connection. And then we had a smaller version of this one. This is the mini type A. This is still around for some products, but of course you see the micro B. This you find on a lot of mobile phones and small mobile devices. It was smaller than the mini A, and it was much smaller than the regular type A. But the problem with this one was also it was mechanically not very robust. So especially on phones and especially with kids, if you have kids, you know what I'm talking about. They break these connectors easily, and you have to buy new cables regularly. And this is the type C. So it's much bigger. You can also see from the picture here, it's smaller than the type A, but it's bigger than the mini and the micro. But it's symmetrical. So you can use it on both sides. And also although the connectors inside are tiny, there is still the robustness is given because it's on the market for a while, and it keeps up so far quite good. I mentioned data rates, and maybe that's not so important for you. That's already quite technical, but we do not mention USB type 1 or 1.1 because that's really 15 years ago, which had very low data rates, but USB 2.0 is still around a lot. So you can find them on most of the laptops and on many devices. 480 megabits per second. It's also not a bad data rate to copy a file or to connect a camera or a speakerphone. That's more than enough to send some audio and video over that connector. But now we're going with the USB 3.0, 3.1, 3.2. We're going 5 gigabit, 10 gigabit, and 20 gigabit per second respectively, which is like 50 times faster than this one. And this is, yeah, typically what happens in the IT industry. There is a Moore's law that says computing power doubles every 18 months. And this is also true for this calculation. So, but how do these data rates relate to real life applications? Because that's just, I mean, who needs 20 gigabits per second? My laptop is not a data center. So how much bandwidth do I actually need? If I look at some of the applications that I'm using every day, for instance, the Zoom meeting we're having right now. So depending on the quality and on your view setting, you're consuming below 1 megabit per second up to around 3 megabits per second. So our connector has 480 megabits per second, but you're only consuming 3 megabits per second. So why there is a need to go with even faster connections like USB 3.0? Because more and more cameras are sending uncompressed video to the computer, and then the computer takes care of the compression into the video conference codec. Or a computer output that would normally go to an HDMI or DisplayPort connection can now go to a USB-C port, which is sending raw, uncompressed, native Full HD or even 4K video over a USB-C connector. So what you get with the USB Type-C, because you get much more than compared to the previous standards. So you get audio, you get video, and the video is like a full quality uncompressed video, even up to 4K. You get power, and it's not just the 5 volts, 1 ampere that you had already with 2.0. No, you get up to 100 watt, which is incredible, or yeah, amazing at least. Then you get the data. And again, we talk about different data rates for the different services. So for audio, in theory, you can consume up to 20 gigabits per second, which, yeah, it's very hard to fill with audio alone. But with the video, it's already quite possible, because video will always be a much higher data rate. And then there is the USB data. So for all kinds of peripherals, but also if you have an external, a solid state, a portable drive, and you want to have a backup of your computer, full backup, hundreds of gigabytes, then of course it makes sense to have a fast transmission speed. And this is the power again, up to 100 watts. On this tiny connector, this is quite impressive. And this is only possible because within the USB-C you have different lanes, and they run in parallel, and also there is an active negotiation between the laptop and the power source, which in case of our product is an Atlona Switcher that has a USB-C input. You connect your laptop and you will get power, and how much power you get or how much power you can get, this is negotiated between those active components. So the Atlona Switcher providing the USB-C is an active component, of course the laptop, but also the cable in between, because they all have to support the amount of power that you are sending. I mentioned that before with the A and B and micro and mini, it was a constant mess. We make fun of that and we're saying, well, this connector has 3 directions, because you try, oh no, it's the wrong one. You turn it around, well, it still doesn't work. Okay, you go back to the first setting and now it works. So this was consuming a lot of time and creating frustrations. And now this is all gone with the USB-C, because it's 100% bidirectional and you can use it on both sides. But not all USB-C cables are equal. So if you buy a phone, you will get a cable that is good for charging. Eventually, it's good enough to connect your phone in a data connection to the PC to eventually copy a video or copy some files and photos between the PC and the phone. But with this USB-C cable that you get along with the phone, you will not be able to connect it to a laptop and send a high quality video to a projector or to a meeting room. So there are different cables, there are different standards within the USB-C, and this has to be respected. Also, the length of the cable is limited. Most of the cables are 2 meters. If you have really high power that you want to pull or really high data rates, it might even be lower than 2 meters. So for sure, you cannot just buy a 20-meter USB-C cable. That doesn't exist. There are solutions to extend the USB-C, and this is the topic of this agenda today. So why do we have those differences? I mentioned the phone that comes with a cable, and the phone, some phones, they can actually send video on their USB-C output, but most phones, they cannot. So you cannot connect any phone to a meeting room and expect that you can send the screen to the projector. It might work with some of the premium phones, but it's not a given. So it's the manufacturers, they balance on what the market needs and what kind of features they put into a product, because obviously it's affecting the cost. And then there is plenty of adapters. So the one here is a USB-C to HDMI output. So if your meeting room has an HDMI input, which almost 100% of the meeting rooms today have, and your laptop doesn't have an HDMI anymore, but your laptop only has a USB-C, so you can have this kind of adapter maybe in your bag, or you can carry this big adapter in your bag, which is then also doing analog VGA, which is also doing HDMI. There are different models. Some of them, they also do display port on top, or they have 2 outputs or even 3 outputs with one single USB-C port to the laptop. And also this little device, this is an Atlona product for wireless presentation. So why does not everybody go wireless, and then we even don't need USB-C anymore? Well, I come back to this summary here. First of all, to mention why we do not just stay with the HDMI instead of the USB-C. HDMI is a fantastic interface. It has a lot of features. It has amazing audio quality. It has video resolutions, 4K, and eventually even beyond. Even with the 8K standards, there might be new HDMI connectors being defined. There is also 3D standards. There is audio return channel. So from your TV, you cannot just receive sources as an input, but you can also send audio back to your AVR, your audio video receiver eventually. And then there is some level of control from some devices like an Apple TV. There is an option to power on and off a connected display if it's connected with an HDMI. And then of course there are these ever-growing standards of high resolution, more colors, more color space, better copy protection. This is an evolution. This is a standard that is very modern, very living, and always up to date. So again, the question, why do we not just stay with the HDMI, and why do we come now with the USB-C? Well, one thing that HDMI doesn't have is power. Well, there is limited amount of power, but it will even not be enough to charge a phone, and of course it's never enough to power a laptop. So we saw before with the USB-C you can send up to 100 watt, and 100 watt is more than enough to power even the most latest state-of-the-art processors. Also, HDMI doesn't provide any data connection like USB that could be used for peripherals. Let's say a meeting room camera, or a soundbar, or a speakerphone, or a touchscreen, or simply a keyboard and a mouse, or a pen drive. All of this can be connected with a USB cable, but cannot work on HDMI. Same for data. So this brings us to the next polling question. There we go. So I was talking about the USB-C capabilities of delivering power to your laptop, and the application in the real world is, you know that your meeting room has a USB-C port and your laptop has a USB-C port. You know the cable is there, so you don't have to bring the power brick if you go to a meeting, even if you know that the meeting is going to last for hours, 2, 3, 4 hours. You don't have to worry. Just bring your laptop, connect it to the USB-C. You will be able to present, but also while you're presenting, your laptop is charged. Okay, so we have not important is only one quarter, and the remaining 3 quarters, they say it's between important and very important. Very interesting, and it makes sense. The same if you have a USB-C connection at your home and at your office, you don't have to carry the power brick around every day. Good, let's continue here. So what USB-C solution is the right one? And again, this comes back to not everybody needs everything from a USB-C. So if you're a regular user, maybe you want every now and then send audio and video to a display or to a projector. And eventually, the power supply that comes with your laptop has USB-C port. So then you will use the USB-C port for those applications. But if you are regularly participating in conferences or active collaboration, then of course you also need a camera control, like you want to connect a video conference and so on. So these are different requirements for the different users, and this is also the main topic of what we're going to discuss. And hopefully at the end of this presentation, you will be very certain what is good for you and what you will need to look at if you're looking for a USB-C solution. Here is a couple of devices, USB devices that are used in collaboration environment. So this is, for instance, cameras, but there is also USB speaker and microphones, or combined into one, which we call a speakerphone. Devices as simple as a keyboard and a mouse, but sometimes you have a fixed installed PC in a meeting room where you have no access. But if there is a keyboard and mouse, well, then at least you can control that computer. Also, sometimes you feel the need to connect a pen drive to copy files over to that PC. So it's handy to have a USB port on the desk. If you have a touch screen, if you have an interactive screen or a whiteboard, a digital whiteboard in a meeting room, then this for sure is a USB device, which you must or you want to connect in some way to your laptop. So if you come in to a meeting room, there is no fixed installed PC, you connect your laptop, but there is an interactive screen on the wall and you want to use it, so you connect your laptop to show the video there, but also you want to have the touchpad to your laptop. And then this is a Logitech Rally Bar, but there is hundreds of products on the market today which are USB based. And it's either audio or video or both. Some of them, they even have a Zoom rooms or a Teams rooms built in. So you can use them without your laptop, but you can also connect your laptop and then you run your own soft codec on the laptop. So in order to do that, you will need kind of a switching device. So all the peripherals are connected to the system. And then you can either use one computer or another computer or switch between those computers. And then, of course, you can use Teams, Zoom, Skype, WebEx, BlueJeans, GoToWebinar, all those kind of applications. So the first laptop connects to the Atlona device. The Atlona device already has all the peripherals connected. And quickly show, this is you coming in with a laptop to that room. This is the Atlona device installed at the meeting room table. On the meeting room table, we have a USB speakerphone. So this speakerphone has a USB connection. the USB connection goes to your laptop, and you will be able to hear and to speak to everyone in the meeting. But then there is also this blue HDBaseT cable, and this can be up to 100 meters long. This is the cable that typically goes from your table through the double floor behind the wall where there is the display, or it even goes on top to the ceiling where there is the projector. So somewhere there is what we call an HDBaseT receiver. So these two devices are both from Atlona, and they communicate via this blue HDBaseT link. So some of the USB peripherals are connected here, like the speakerphone. Additional peripherals can be connected at the receiver. So if you have a soundbar with a camera, you can connect it right here. If you have a standalone camera on top of the screen or close to the projector, again, this will be a USB port going here into the receiver, going over the HDBaseT to this Atlona device, and finally from here to your laptop. So now somebody else comes into the room and also wants to use those peripherals. So then the second computer connects, and that could be either with an HDMI plus USB connection, or that can be with a single USB-C. So you see here on this device, we have a USB-C port, but also we have a couple of HDMIs, and we have a display port. If you use one of those, then you do not have the USB data included. So then you can also use those separate USB host type B cables. So then if the second laptop connects, the first laptop will disconnect from all the peripherals, and the second laptop will get all those peripherals. Good. So far for the basics. I would like to jump into applications. So this is less bits and bytes, but it's more use cases, and hopefully you will find your own requirements in one of those scenarios. There are schematics in there and drawings, and I hope it's easy to understand. Otherwise, just send a question into the chat. So we start with a small system with a huddle room. A huddle room is typically for up to 4 people. Zero user interface. So in a huddle room, you typically do not see a touch panel where you can do complicated stuff, because they don't have microphones. They rarely have projectors. Most of them are displays, and you don't need to control the lights and the shades and stuff. So it's a room, you just go in, either you present something on a screen, or you run a small video conference. And we have 2 products for this category. The first one is the Omega, so OME is the Omega EX kit. EX stands for extender, and the kit is because it's a transmitter, a TX, which is this guy here, and a receiver, an RX. So if you buy a kit, you will get both of them. The only thing you need to provide on site is an HDBaseT cable going from here to here. You will see a power supply you can connect here, and then over the HDBaseT cable, the transmitter is powered. So if your receiver is behind the display on a wall, probably, it will have a power socket, it will have a power supply, and then over the HDBaseT, we can power the transmitter. So at the table, you do not necessarily have to bring power, electrical power, because the device here will be powered from the receiver. On the Omega EX kit, there is not a USB-C, there is an HDMI input, so for the laptop. And you can present from HDMI if it's only about audio and video, no problem, but you can also use the host port. So you have to provide a cable that is going from type B to type A, and you connect your laptop. And then you will see here the peripherals. So we have a speakerphone at the table, which is connected to one of the 2 available peripheral ports. And then you have on the receiver side, you have additional peripherals. For instance, a USB camera, which can be available, or in this case, that's an interactive display, which is a touch screen, so it has a USB port. So here on the receiver, we have 2 peripherals, and also we have 2 peripheral ports available. Next one is the Omega MH21, which is what we call a media hub. It is already a switcher. So the first product we saw before, the Omega EX Kit, is just an extender. So one source goes to one display. Now this is a switcher. It has 2 inputs. So you can have one laptop with a USB-C connection, and you can have another laptop with a HDMI plus USB. Again, this USB data connection is optional. If you just want to present audio and video, that's fine. But if you also want to use the peripherals, again, speakerphone connected here, USB camera connected at the display. Note, this is a single box solution, so it's not a transmitter and a receiver. There is no HDBaseT link in this product. This is for smaller rooms, like typically huddle rooms are small. They might even not have a big meeting room table. It's just a small table. Maybe even the table is connecting to the wall, so you can run short cables, but you want a switcher, and you can switch between a USB-C and an HDMI. And also I see a question from Christopher in the chat. He was asking, why do some devices like the MH21 not offer USB-C charging? The good news is we have been listening to you customers, and we will have this model coming also with a USB-C device charging option. So per today on this product, this USB-C port has audio, video, and data, but does not have power. But with the next release of the product, we will also add a device charging feature to it, like we have on most of the product. But yeah, I have to admit, we don't have it on all the products. Here also you see blue connectors, and by the special shape of the USB Type-B, you will notice this is a USB 3.0 at least, or even a 3.1 or 3.2 with a minimum of 5 gigabit per second transfer rate. So next meeting room size is a collaboration space. So this adds more functionality compared to a huddle room. So for sure, this is for video conferences, so it should support Skype and Zoom and whatever there is. We need to switch AV and USB. We need to have all the latest connectivity, such as USB-C, HDMI, DisplayPort, no exception. We dropped the analog VGA on most of the products, and it's replaced by the USB-C. In some instances, we need to have dual display, and sometimes we need scaling. Why? Because displays per today are mostly 4K, but projectors are mostly not 4K. So if you have a projector that is still WXGA or Full HD, you need a scaler. And here's the solution provided by Atlona. This is what we call MS42 within the Omega family. It's a 4x2 matrix switcher, hence the name 42. So it has 4 inputs. In this diagram, only 3 inputs are shown. We have a USB-C for this laptop, including data. We have an HDMI, so this user has decided not to use data, but then we have a display port, and this laptop also had established a connection with a USB host cable type B. Again, USB peripherals, speakerphone at the table, and then we have display on the wall with a USB camera. It could be an interactive display, maybe not. There could be a sound bar with a camera or with not a camera. You can connect additional peripherals here. In addition, we have shown here Ethernet connection. This is just to mention that we have the control system, which is the Velocity Gateway, and also we have a VTP800, which is an 8-inch touch panel to control this solution, but you don't necessarily need this. because these products, they have capability of what we call automatic input switching and automatic display control. I was referring to that earlier. So you connect your source, the device wakes up, the device powers on the display and is routing the inputs. If you have a second laptop that is coming in, the device and the display is already powered up, but then the MS42 will select the last source as the active source. If that source disconnects, then if the first laptop is still connected, it will be shown on the screen. Here we go into an active learning classroom. So it could be a regular classroom, it could be a flipped classroom with student pods. So the student pods is where typically a group of students are working on a small project, and when they're finished, they present to all the other groups. So all the content from all the different locations has to be able to reach all the displays, all the projectors that are in the room. Sometimes there is long distance required because the projector is on the ceiling and the distance can easily be 30, 40, or even 50 meters. And for the larger rooms, we need audio reinforcement, so microphones and speakers, of course. This is the solution built around PS62, Omega PS62. It's a 6x2 matrix built in a 19-inch form factor. So it goes into a rack. It can go into a lectern, but typically in these larger rooms, they have a rack somewhere, either in the corner of the room or somewhere out of the room in a technical environment. So we have the 6x2 matrix, which is here. This is basically the heart of the system. And then we have one pod here. So this is supporting an Omega ST31. It's a switching transmitter with 3 inputs going to 1 HDBaseT output. So these are student laptops. 3 of them can be connected. If you like, you can have a local display. So while the students are working on their concept, they can see their own screen presenting to the group. And when they're done, they will use this HDBaseT link to go to the PS62 and then to go either to the display or projector over an HDBaseT long distance, or also here is a preview. This is typically used by the teacher when he is connecting his own laptop, because here on this PS62 there is also local inputs, like for a PC, for instance. In case of a video conference, that could be a Zoom rooms or a Teams rooms, like a small nook. But in case of a school, typically this is a laptop or a PC. And then this is the second student pod with the exact similar setup. Again, we have the control system, velocity, with an 8-inch panel or 10-inch panel or 5.5-inch panel. And for the audio enforcement, we have a range of amplifiers. This is the bigger one, gain 120. You can also see here. This can also be equipped with a Dante input. So this is a fully digital amplifier solution. Then next one, this is a conference room with additional BYOD. So BYOD is the bring your own device. And basically what it is a wireless input. So you can come into the room with whatever device you have. It could be a Windows laptop, then you use Miracast. It could be an iPhone, then you use AirPlay, or it could be an Android tablet, and then use either Google Cast or Chromecast. And that's the setup. So we have 2 products for the BYOD. The drawing here, or the picture here, is the MS52. And the drawing here shows the SW510. The only difference between the two is that the MS52 also has the USB switching, which the 510 doesn't have. So 510 is a 5x2 matrix for wireless and wired, and MS52 is also 5x2 matrix for wired and wireless, but also is switching and routing USB peripherals, like shown here on the graphics. So the device has 2 outputs, and those can be independent. So you can feed display 1 and display 2 with different content. So laptop 1 can go to display 1, laptop 2 to display 2, and so on. And of course, again, all the USB peripherals are switched along. So here is the wireless tablet where you use your mirroring, your wireless content sharing, and we do not need any special kind of application installed on the wireless device because we are using whatever the operating system already has. Good. Last one for today is the Atlona IP meeting space, or we call it the all IP meeting space. This is for larger installation where on a campus you want to put everything on the network. So not just room by room, but you also want to have the ability to share content from room to room, from building to building across your campus. So this is what we refer to as the LAN, the local area network. And of course, this is where Panduit comes into place with their high quality building infrastructure cabling, because we are sending now a lot of data over those networks. This is an example of such a room. Again, we have laptops as input devices. This is an OmniStream encoder, so a dual channel encoder, takes those two laptops and basically creates a video stream and an audio stream going to the switch or the network in general. That switch can be in the room, but can be somewhere out up to 100 meters away. And then the video stream is going to this dual channel decoder and going to the two screens. If you only have one screen or one projector, of course, we also have a single channel decoder. Interesting is that this decoder will be able to receive streams from anywhere in the building. So if you have a signage server, or if you have other rooms that want to share information with this room, then you can use one screen for the local PC, like a laptop, and you can use the other screen for a remote, a colleague or your boss that is somewhere else on the campus, and vice versa. You can send content to him, he can send content to you. And then this is an integration of a video conference codec. They are still around, the hardware codecs. We also have an audio integration. So if you use audio DSPs, we have done the integration, and we're using AES67 audio over the network. These two devices, these are for the peripherals. So the Omni 311 is the host adapter. It goes to the network. So with this one, your laptop can connect to the network, and he has the capability to receive all the USB peripherals that are on the network. And in order to do that, a peripheral must use this one here, the Omni 324, which is the peripheral adapter. So this is a full matrix product, not just a point-to-point. So up to 7 of these can be paired with one of these. And you see here are 4 USB ports times 7 devices. Basically, you can route up to 28 peripherals to one host. And this is, of course, fully controllable over the network. And now I'm slowing down because I know I was going fast. I had to keep an eye on the time. It's 5 minutes before the end. And I'm open now to receive questions. Christopher is happy that he got his questions answered.
Thank you, Ritu, for the very informative session. Before we can start with the questions, I'd like to point out that at the end of the webinar, a survey will pop up on your screen to collect your feedback on today's session. So please, your input is highly appreciated, as we are always looking to optimize our work to fit your expectations. And now we will back to Ritu with the first question, which is what if they have more than 2 USB connections on the table? Let's say they have 6 AV table interfaces.
Yes, correct. So in most of our Omega products, we have 2 peripherals, but you can combine, like the example we saw with the flipped classroom, where you have the ST31 with 2 peripherals, another ST31, and then they had the PS62, so that's already 6 USB peripherals. So all those peripherals, they are switched to one host. If you have two hosts at the same time, you need the Omni USB solution built around the Omni 311 and 324. This is more flexible, this is more powerful, and also this is needed for special installations like a divisible room. Sometimes big auditoriums or boardrooms are split with divisible walls, and then you have one host in one area and another host in another. So that's when you need the Omni 311, 324.
We have another question from Ahmed in OME-MS42. The HDBaseT and HDMI are the same out signal?
No, the MS42 is already a 4x2 matrix. So it can be configured to be mirrored. So the output is the same, but it can just as good be a matrix where you have two different signals going to the two destinations. And I believe we have another question asking about Bluetooth signal with OmniStream. So if we can distribute or extend Bluetooth signals, no, we cannot. So OmniStream is an AV or IP solution taking care of audio and video. Of course, this we are doing in a visually lossless quality. So with no noticeable latency. The latency of an OmniStream solution is around 8 milliseconds end to end, which is very, very fast, but it's not doing any Bluetooth. I would be interested to understand the Bluetooth use case. What actually, because Bluetooth is designed with low range in mind. It should never go more than 10 meters. So I would be interested to learn about the use case, why somebody would want to have Bluetooth over a longer range. Good.
Okay, we have another question. Can I use my phone charger cable to send video over USB-C?
Sorry, can you say the question again?
Can I use my phone charger cable to send video over USB-C?
No, most likely not, because this cable that came with the phone is really made for the purpose, which is charging the phone. Eventually, you can send some data to a computer if you want to copy a movie or some photos. But we recommend to use the Atlona supplied cable with any USB-C solution. We include a cable which is 2 meters. And can do everything, all the services we just explained, including the power and uncompressed video.
How much power can send Atlona devices over USB-C to my laptop?
That's an interesting one. Typically, Atlona devices are designed to send 60 watts over, again, the Atlona cable. Some of the laptops, they just need 30 watts, so it's fine. The laptop will only pull as much as he wants. But some of the most powerful mobile workstations, they can pull up to 90 watts. So there is an active negotiation between all the components. So you connect your laptop, the laptop says, hey, I'm in USB-C, and Atlona says, hey, cool, I have USB-C as well. How much you want in power? And the laptop says, I can take up to 90. And then Atlona says, well, but I can only deliver 90. And the laptop says, okay, I'm fine. 60 is better than nothing, so I will take 60. And then, of course, the cable needs to support it. So if you use an aftermarket cable, a third-party cable that can only carry 30 watts, then they will just negotiate on 30 watts, so nothing gets damaged.
What happens if power capabilities don't match between Atlona USB-C host, my laptop, and used cable?
Okay. So I eventually already answered. So there is in the USB-C, all the participants are active negotiators. So they do talk to each other. So the Atlona device talks to the laptop, but also includes the cable. And they will always agree on whatever is possible for all the elements in the chain. So nothing breaks and nothing burns, basically.
The last question, I need 20-meter USBC extension in my meeting room. What product do I need?
Yes, so you can buy just USB-C extended cables, but these are mostly fiber. They cannot carry power, for instance, to give you one idea. And also it's not so easy to integrate them because it's a molded thing, so you cannot easily pull them through double floors and they might break. So with the Omega portfolio I just introduced, we do have a mix and match portfolio, so you can combine those different elements. Yeah, you take a transmitter, you take a receiver, or you combine it with a matrix, you combine it with a switcher. So we recommend to use these kind of products because they use HDBaseT standard to go from one to the next, which is a very proven technology and very, very reliable.
Thank you, Rito. I hope you all enjoyed Rito's presentation and it has expanded your knowledge on the latest trends in USB and AV collaborative meeting spaces. Please, if you have any questions on the presentation, you can contact Rito via his email address that is shown on the last slide now, or you can send us a direct email to support@itrident.com. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.